Well, welcome everybody to another episode of Supply Chain Disruption and Content Marketing Lessons Learned from the Thinkers 50 book, Certain Uncertainty. I'm your host, Kevin Jessup, along with our co-host, Jason Jimenez Vanover. This weekly event is our chance to touch base with you, our audience, and dig into a few things. One, we want to help guide through this series each week. We'll discuss core takeaways from the chapter. We'll draw the correlation between our takeaways and the events of supply chain for the last week. We'll explore ways in which it's a useful means of creating content for your audience. And we'll bridge into some of what we're seeing across our client pool in terms of content marketing strategies. With that in mind, the focus of this particular week, Radical Empathy, How to Craft Effective Communications About Change by Tamsin Webster. So, Jason, what did you take away from this chapter?
My biggest thing that I was able to really look at this chapter and say, how can I apply this in the context of that conversation, is the idea of recognizing there must be a dominant truth. You cannot have two absolute truths at the same time. Yet, as marketers, and more importantly, as supply chain subject matter experts, we have to carefully navigate two truths all the time.
Yeah.
Is it going to be LTL or truckload? Is it going to be parcel or another mode? What is going to be the right thing to do versus in content marketing, where you sometimes have to look from it at a lens of, are these people that are in awareness? Are they in consideration? Or are they in the decision-making phase? And I found that idea of a dominant truth really empowering and uplifting when we think about creating content for the supply chain.
Yeah.
What about you, Kevin?
Well, as you were talking about that, and as I was reading it, it reminded me of this great leader named Obi-Wan, who once said that only a Sith deals in absolutes. And so we are forcing ourselves in this chapter to put ourselves in someone else's shoes, to see things from their point of view. There are certain truths that they have, certain truths that we have, and how do we bridge those gaps?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And, we really have to think about our opportunities to look at it through the lens of our customers.
Yeah.
What is going to be the right thing that we can do? And how can we best build trust to meet them halfway and, slowly guide the conversation without becoming overbearing?
Yeah.
And I really find it impactful because, we're seeing something unusual this year. We're seeing a rebalancing of the freight market. I think it was either Bill Cassidy or Lars Jensen that mentioned last week at the Journal of Commerce that we're not really seeing a true rebalancing, but rather a resetting of the freight market, because we've always had our 3-year cyclic nature to the freight market. But in the last few years, it's just been more.
Yeah.
That was the both gift and curse that came with the pandemic.
Mhm.
So we really have to look at it through a lens of how can we employ the idea of radical empathy to understand the needs of our customers in the supply chain. How can they also apply that concept in content creation to build trust and open the door to acceptance of new supply chain solutions?
Yeah.
We expect that the freight market is going to be unusual because the idea of peak season isn't panning out like many of us envisioned at the beginning of the year. So we really have to look at it for how can we align our content to meet those needs in the flywheel and succeed. And I think that comes back to communication. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, as you were talking, I have questions. So let me pose some back to you. How do you
Definitely.
think our customers who are in the supply chain, how can they use that aspect of building trust with their own not just their customers, but their vendors and those that they interact with. How does that apply in the supply chain, and how can they use that to cause some good to happen?
Yeah. So when you think about building trust, a lot of times it comes down to clear communications.
Yeah.
Because you know what? There's a reality that many of us often forget, which is text cannot convey emotions.
Mm.
But by simply adding emojis, while they might seem unprofessional in
Yeah.
a text or adding that added layer of human touch, you can really keep the conversation and the relationship alive, even if you're delivering bad news. There is an adage that says, if you have to give someone bad news, give it in person. Well, that evolved over the last century to giving it
Yeah.
over the phone. And in a global economy, we have to really look at it from a view of what are the needs of your vendors. So, for example, your vendors, it is in their best interest to keep you as a customer, JCI marketing included. But at the same time, you also have to recognize that we are all in different businesses. We may have different goals, but by building that level of trust, building those relationships and keeping them alive, we are creating strategic partnerships that will outlive even an economic lull.
Yeah.
Lull. I don't know if I'm saying the word
Yeah. Lol.
lull. It's not coming out correctly this
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah.
But I think that we really have to look at it from a view of what is the unique way
Mm.
in which any organization solves the pain points of another one. So say we had a non-asset based freight broker and they are right now is a time of uncertainty for them because a downturn in the freight market, their whole business is freight. So a potential downturn means they really have to apply an added level of trust that it will rebound, and it will. But we've seen multiple stories this year where companies have had to shutter operations because they bet on the wrong horse, per se.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that that horse was never getting out of the gate, but rather they needed to look at it from a way of what's the best way to encourage that? Maybe they need to feed the horse a little more, give it more water. I know nothing about horse racing. I just know I went to a single horse race once. I had a blast. I had a lot of fun. Who won? I have no idea. I remember it was a white horse. But that same is kind of the case when you look at the supply chain. You have to look at the pain points. You have to recognize maybe we're not the right solution right now, but we could be the right solution for the future. And those strategic partnerships that put more time back into your day, that reduce the hassle of managing operations, that have something no other company can claim. Getting that message across is really what's core to identifying your audience's needs, aligning your content with those needs, and meeting those needs that will then in turn help to support additional leads down the line.
Yeah.
Whether that is content written for SEO, but with a strong person centered focus, or if it's hosting weekly audio events or LinkedIn live events or podcasts like we are doing right now.
Yeah, and that makes me think of a large portion of this chapter, which was talking about the red thread method. Um,
Yes.
and I want to talk about that in particular because the person who wrote this, who was it, Tamsin Webster?
Yes, sir.
This is their like coined method, but I mean, I've been doing things like this for almost a decade now. It wasn't this exact method, but this is how you find out what your messaging is. This is messaging seminar
Exactly.
101, right? And do you have that image I shared with you earlier of the flywheel?
Yes, sir. Let me just
Yeah.
make it a little bit bigger because oh, that's far too big. The benefits of running something on I'm trying to share it to the screen.
Right. You just
There it
do it like
goes.
that, right? Oh,
Yeah.
where? There we go. Okay. Hey, this is live, y'all.
Yep, yep.
But this is great because this shows what informs what. Okay. The customer is in the middle. We're a customer focused organization, or at least you should be. Um, Service. Let's start there. Service is the one who's talking to your current customer. They know the pain points. They see it well after sales is finished and they're doing the daily life with that customer. They know the pain points. They also know what you as a company are good at and what you're bad at. Okay. Because they're
Account
having to deal with the
managers.
fallout, you know?
Yes.
So service informs marketing. Marketing, if you are in marketing right now, go talk to your service department, pick up this book and look at the red thread method. Ask these questions to your service department. You're
Yeah,
going to find out
definitely.
exactly what your pain points are. You're going to know who your audience is. You're going to know what your product is, obviously, but then you're going to take it a step further and you're going to find out what your audience's goal is. You're going to find out what their perspective is. Put yourself in their shoes. Have empathy for who your customer is. What can you agree on? What's that commonality? You have your truth, they have theirs. What's the commonality? And then because they believe that, you have your recommendation. We're just following the blueprint, right?
Yes.
So marketing gets to come up with, after you've talked with your service department, you get to create that content and those offerings for your sales. But then the best part is now the whole business, anyone who's customer facing, now knows the messaging. And it's now a cohesive experience for your customer. I don't know. I've been a part of a lot of different organizations that have not done this. They've tried, but maybe they didn't know the method or maybe have understood the importance of commonality in messaging. But anyone who's customer facing needs to know the same messaging. That way it's a seamless experience. You're not getting one answer from service and another answer from sales and a whole other thing from marketing. Everyone's on the same page and everyone works
Definitely.
together to serve your customer. And in doing that, I guarantee you're going to see increased sales.
Most definitely. And I think that that leads us kind of into the idea of you have to avoid the potential backfires.
Yeah.
Because if you approach someone, like when we were talking about the dominant truth, if you, pardon me, if you approach someone and start looking strictly at changing their mind, and this is the fact, and you just need to get realistic with it, you're going to only succeed in alienating them.
Yeah.
But if you can make it halfway, if you want to use that red thread method, and this is very similar to one of the things we do in intake interviews. We
Oh, yeah.
talk about, what is your goal? What is your hero's journey? What are you trying to get your hero to solve? How do they do it? And what is the ultimate outcome? Tamsin mentioned, he gives us a script in that book that I showed a few moments ago, Certain Uncertainty, where he's talking, when I speak with blank, and it says the type of audience, or they often want to know blank, the common question your idea, service, product, or capability answers. You could use that script as a starting point, especially if you're perhaps rethinking your marketing strategy. And you know what? I know many of you are,
Yeah.
because when markets rebound or reset or appear rebalancing like they are right now, we all know that the marketing budget is one of the first things to go. But I caution that successful marketing is not an overnight process. It is not a month long process. It is rather a months long process. And you have to reach that point of a sustainability to where you are building up the audience to understand you. You have to build on their beliefs and align your messages with their existing beliefs so that you gradually push them in the direction you want to go. Now, some might argue that it is manipulative. But what is marketing if not a means of manipulating our subconscious to do something? You know, let's take a simple example. You go to Walmart or HEB if you're from Texas, and you are ready to check out. You've got everything on your list, and you look over and you realize that they have something you just cannot live without right at the cash register. That's called the impulse buy section. That product, that self space is very valuable. And they don't put it up with a giant sign that says, hey, buy this stuff before you leave. They put it there because they know that it's piqued your interest. You've been shopping, and they are also playing to your emotional need to complete the task at hand. Candy in that section of the store is more expensive than candy in the candy aisle. Drinks are more expensive there than those that you would buy on the soda aisle or the juice aisle. So you really have to view it from what is the thing that they want. And in a typical retail chain today, the items in that section are the things that people don't want to go back into the store and find. They're the things that appeal to our emotional need for to be satisfied. Hence the reason a lot of them are snacks. And they also appeal to our want to get absolutely everything. And that's, just the reality of it. And by aligning your content in the same style, getting it 90% of the way there, and in that final 10%, showing your audience that you connect with them, you can in turn teach the realities of success, create multiple engagements, and create content despite the challenges, and recognizing that it's part of the phrase that Mr. Kevin coined that I absolutely love involving lead generation. Kevin, would you like to do the honors and give us the name?
It's the sustainable lead generation engine. It's the thing that once you start creating, if you're consistent, it will be sustainable, and it will be this little engine that just won't stop providing leads. It takes time, but it will compound.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And we see that a lot in SEO because SEO is such a wide topic. Every month, it seems Google has a new core update. We're constantly watching to see, if you were targeting LTL shippers, are you creating content that's going to solve their need? Are they having trouble finding coverage? We saw what happened with Yellow. We saw that Saya, um, what was it? Saya, ABF, and I think Estes. I could be wrong on that, so don't quote me. But I know that Saya and ABF Freight were both in there as they saw double digit growth in the amount of LTL freight moving through their network after the collapse of Yellow.
Yeah.
Now we've seen Convoy collapse, and I can't help but somewhat feel that some of this rebalancing within the market is occurring because maybe companies didn't prioritize the right marketing efforts. Because when business is great, it's easy to say, yes, do it all, do it all. Let's pour it into ads. Let's do this. Let's hire this. Let's do that. But if you allow your search engine optimization goals to slip, the piper comes calling eventually. And I think that that's similar to what we're seeing happen. You can invest all the money in the world in technology and to build a world class transportation management system or process in handling service and people. But it doesn't do any good if at some point the amount of leads you're getting dries up.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that SEO is going to generate leads within 6 months, because that would be um, a detriment for any organization to view it as we're going to have leads that quickly. Can it happen? Sure. Is it likely, especially in a competitive industry like the transportation industry? No.
Yeah.
And companies that promise the world with leads starting in a month or less than that, there is something else going on. For example, at JCI, one of our core things that we do is we get that content rolling along, and then we start looking at potential lead magnets to supplement. We look at the options for adding a white paper, maybe a guide, maybe an infographic, some sort of material that our clients can use to draw in leads while waiting on SEO to work, because you need those resources. And part of that also includes, posting to social media, seeing who's engaging with your posts. Some of the biggest companies on the planet have record setting engagement rates. But if those engagement rates are all based on in house employees, you're not really getting the main value from it. So
Yeah.
you might have to take the extra steps of resharing it into groups. Now, we live in a B2B space. So to me, the most important social platform is LinkedIn. But there are certain things you can do on LinkedIn that will help, like resharing into groups, but you can't necessarily do that through an automated capability. You will have the LinkedIn powers that be rain on your parade. I have seen it
Yeah.
happen to 3 different people in the last 4 months. And they lost their access to LinkedIn for using automated tools. So you really have to look at it like, what is the best way to move forward, and how can you get your cake and eat it too? And I think that it is possible, because you are essentially needing to both cross sell to your current customers, upsell to your current customers, and use the right strategies that are going to be the most beneficial in the long run, in 12 months, in 18 months. My favorite example of all time in this involves freight consolidation. So, Kevin, you remember when we would talk about freight consolidation back in the day at Cerasis?
Yeah.
Um, you know, for those of you who do not know, Kevin and I first met back at Cerasis when creating content, and the Cerasis Rater was created to be a TMS that prioritized LTL shipments. Am I saying that correct, Kevin?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just making sure I haven't gone insane in the last few
Yeah.
years. It's been a while, folks.
Yeah.
So when you look at that, you say, what is the right strategy? Well, if you need to reduce your LTL rates, you need to move more LTLs. So you need to figure out a way to pull your small package shipments, your parcel shipments into LTL. And those don't always line up just right in the supply chain, because this is the age of e-commerce and everyone is buying parcels or sending via parcel. So you really have to look at what is the right places, what are the right nodes within the supply chain to implement those consolidation efforts, and then where can you also deconsolidate down the line to ensure you are delivering on time, to ensure you're getting what you need, and to ensure that you are building that level of trust relentlessly with your customers and teaching them, training them to follow your brand, follow the success, and succeed. And that's really what radical empathy is all about: meeting your customers halfway so that they can come the rest of the way and you can reap the reward.
Let me ask you a couple questions here as we're trying to
Definitely.
wrap up, and let's land the plane, to so
Definitely.
to say. Um, when we first opened up this event, we started by saying we're going to talk about the book. We've done that pretty good. We talked about the correlation that we're going to take away with supply chain and with content creation. What are some good, real quick, high level action item takeaways for either or both, if you are in supply chain or if you're in content marketing? What can they do this week to move in the right direction? What do you suggest?
That's a great question, Kevin. I think that the best action items are going to be fairly simple. So let's give you a couple to do. So whether you are in supply chain or marketing or both like us, sign up for the JCI Marketing newsletter. Each week, the JCI Marketing newsletter provides an overview of what JCI Marketing is up to, including our community involvement and our current operations. It also includes a section dedicated to content inspiration. That inspiration includes both industries at large and supply chain specific stories or points of interest that you can use as a jumping point for creating a couple of social posts for your organization. The next step is, and you can get that link to the newsletter in the comments to this event. The next step is to go get the book Certain Uncertainty, because it's going to provide you with a lot of the rubric and outlines that we talked about today. And just to, show it again, this is what it looks like. It's a great read, and it is chapter 8 that we are talking about. So, in so doing, you're going to want to get that book, look at the red thread script on page 74, and fill it in. It is a short script. You can see in my video, it is half the page long, and it will go a long way toward giving you a starting point for your marketing strategy. Even if you have an established marketing strategy, it kind of serves as a good check-in point to make sure you're on the right track. The next thing, so that's the second step. So we've got sign up for the JCI newsletter, get the book and fill out the red thread script. Well, I guess you don't necessarily need to get the book, but you can always visit Thames and Webster's website. And then the next thing you're going to want to do is you need to assess what your competitors are doing. That includes what they are doing on LinkedIn by accessing your admin view on your LinkedIn page and ensuring you have the right competitors, your direct competitors, listed in there and looking at how often they are posting. That gives you a foundational principle of how often you should be posting. So that's the one part. The other is to assess the SEO performance of your competitors. Now, I do want to add the warning to this. Signing up for the newsletter takes 2 minutes. Getting the inspiration and putting something together, maybe an hour. Getting the book, reading that chapter, 10 minutes. So we're at right at an hour and a half. Assessing your competitor strategies is a couple of hours of work. So in that realm, I really want to present JCI Marketing as a solution and resource for you. We are here. We can help you achieve those goals, and we can do so quickly. So just shoot us a email at jason@jasons-creationstx.com or DM me or Kevin in this event, and we can get you set up with those competitive analyses within the next week. Now, I hope you've enjoyed spending some time with us this week. So let's recap those 4 things I want you to do real quick. Sign up for the JCI newsletter. Link is in the comments. Do the red thread script and conduct your LinkedIn competitor assessment and your SEO competitive assessment to get it going. And if any of that gets to be overwhelming, call us. So, Kevin, do you have any final thoughts as we wrap up?
No, I mean it's really that simple. It's one of those things where it's simple, but it's also hard. If you are in a smaller marketing department, it's in your best interest, really, to go just sign up for the newsletter. It's free, and it's going to give you some inspiration for content ideas. That's invaluable. We're doing a lot of that hard work for you to come up with ideas to post. And that may not take very long to do. And that's something that you can scale with for a while just to keep the boat afloat. But eventually you're going to need help. It is not something that you can do effectively by yourself. I've done it. I've been the one-man marketing team at a company, and it's exhausting, and it leads to burnout. I would hope we're at the point right now in the year where we're doing some budgeting stuff for next year. I mean, get some help, whether it's us or another agency. Partner with somebody, have those common goals, and really, I mean, it's a partner who can come alongside you to help you hit your goals. who can take ownership in it, and can celebrate your wins with you. We would love to be that, but find someone. That's my only recommendation.
Most definitely. And finding someone, I think, is crucial to preventing burnout and creating sustainability, which in fact leads us into our discussion for next week, which is going to be the chapter leading sustain. Whoa, that did not work well. Leading Sustainability Transitions by Matt Gitsum. I'm really excited to do this chapter. It has been on my list for weeks that I'm very excited to do because sustainability is everywhere. So I just want to say thank you to our audience for sticking with us to the end. And if you found something insightful in here, feel free to like, comment, and reshare this thread. So thank you and have a great afternoon.
Bye, y'all.